Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, where we watch every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I'm Sean.
And I'm Tennille. Today we are traveling back in time a little bit. Yes, again, back to the 60s.
Just this once. It's okay. Maybe.
Just this once, he says.
Just this once right now.
Just as if we haven't had to go back to the 60s or back to different parts of the 60s multiple times. Anyway.
Either way, we're back to 1964.
Yes, and we need to thank Hyperstone 9 for giving us this film. Heroic Sisters of the Grasslands.
We found this movie on YouTube, but they managed to go through and translate this Chinese film for us. Mm-hmm. Because we don't speak Mandarin.
No. So they translated for us, and we were able to finally watch it. And I'm glad we got to watch it, because it's actually, kind of an interesting little movie. Not one I would recommend, but...
No.
But,
the animation was pretty well done.
Yeah, it was very well animated. It's only a 35 to 40 minute...
I think it was about 40 minutes exactly.
40 minutes, which we don't like watching movies that are that short, but since this person went out of their way to translate it, and...
On top of that, China has only given us 2 other films before this.
Right. So we felt like it was important to cover this one.
Especially because of the context of the film.
I mean, I don't think the context really adds much reason for us to cover it on this show, but it is interesting context nonetheless. This is a very propaganda-y film. Probably the most propaganda-y film we've watched so far.
Yeah,
And we've watched some pretty strong propaganda.
Especially from Russia, but no, this one blows those out of the water. It's no, this is propaganda.
Yeah.
Only propaganda.
I mean, this whole story, which...
Here's...
we should get to. Go ahead.
Okay. So, we have 2 sisters from Mongolia.
Long Meng and Yu Rong.
Okay. They are sisters.
The older girl is 11, and the younger girl is 9.
11 and 9.
Yeah.
Well, in the spring of 1964, because this is based on a true story, they were left in charge of their 394 sheep.
Not theirs, their commune's sheep.
Right, okay, so is their entire community's sheep. And their dad had to go off and help a sheep birthing or something, so they were left in charge. And while they're out in the middle of the field... a
sudden blizzard
hits. And they can't get the sheep to go back home. So they just keep herding the sheep and following the sheep and keeping them together as best they can. And they do this for 2 days straight. Without sleeping, without eating, through a blizzard of negative 40 degrees.
I think that part's exexaggerated.
According to the movie.
Movie.
I'm saying according to the movie here.
Yeah, I think and it's hard for me to say for sure because a lot of this is coming through the Chinese government, what happened, but I think from what I could tell, it sounds like it was actually only a day and a half, which is still insanely long.
Especially for a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old in this ridiculously cold weather, herding sheep, and they do this for 2 days straight as all the adults are out trying to find them, and they walk 22, 24 miles?
50 kilometers.
50 kilometers.
Kilometers is
Okay.
I'm thinking of the correct metric, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a long way, and they walk a lot. The younger sister, in the movie at least, loses her boot.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, she loses her boot.
They get separated for a while. They both work at saving sheep here and there.
She doesn't even notice she lost her boot.
I'm assuming her foot was so cold and frostbitten at that point, she didn't even notice she didn't have a boot on anymore. And that's terrifying.
The impressive thing is that they didn't lose a single one of their sheep.
Yeah, they didn't lose any of the sheep, and that's why this movie was like they became instant heroes of China from doing this because they both survived, 2 supposedly kept all their limbs according to the movie, and 3 were able to keep all the sheep alive as well. While walking through a blizzard for 1.5 to 2 days. That's ridiculous. And multiple times throughout this movie. So, like, that's the general plot. But
then,
also, there's heavy communism propaganda slapped on top of this. Like,
where it just blatantly starts singing a song about how this wouldn't be possible if it weren't for communist ideals. And
the original leader of the Communist Party in China.
Yeah.
And we are good communists, and this is the correct ideal, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, God.
Well, and you know how there's another segment to this movie where this little sister keeps asking her older sister to tell her the stories of Lei Fang, and both you and I were like, dude, what?
Who's Lei Fang?
Who's Lei Fang? Apparently, he is supposed to be a ideal communist soldier. Maybe or might not be completely or partially made up by the Chinese government.
Great! I love it!
Great!
Oh boy!
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, besides the very, very, very blatant communist messaging layered on all parts of this.
It is an interesting true story.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, were you able to find out any more specific details of how true this movie was to reality, or does it look about the same, and or was it mostly just covered up by the Chinese government, so it's impossible to tell at this point?
Well, that's the thing. It's really hard to say because obviously, like, it's hard to trust my sources, you know. But anything like, there's no Wikipedia article on these girls even. Like, like the only documents that I can find about these girls come from Chinese news websites.
Oh, so that's highly trustworthy then.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as I'm sure that the government has total control over what gets released in the newspapers. Especially for this long.
Yeah, what's even stranger is, like, you know, if they were on a Wikipedia article, it would probably have, at least at this point, have some kind of follow-up saying, you know, like, where these girls are now, or what happened to them, or what they've gone on to do, because they were considered, like, national icons.
So they could potentially still be alive, or we might have found out, no, they died in, like, at age 65 or something, still continuing to herd sheep or something. But no.
They didn't do that.
No?
I can tell you that.
Okay.
Because the older sister lost her big toe.
Okay.
From doing this after this. And the younger sister, Yu Rung, was left disabled after the surgery amputated both of her legs.
Both of her legs?
Yeah, both the lower halves of her legs.
Oh, so great.
I'm guessing she did not continue herding sheep.
No. The end of the movie lied to us. We saw them frolicking through the fields with sheep again. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Like, I'm genuinely not surprised that they came out that bad. Because, yeah, it was a blizzard.
I mean, I was surprised to read that one of them didn't die or something like that. Because apparently they were found unconscious. Which the movie kind of hints at that, but it kind of makes it look like...
Oh, they
found them, and then, like, the girls
They're
went
like,
unconscious.
oh, the adults found us. All right, we're clocking out now.
No, they passed out sometime, like, in the middle of the night, and then the search party found them.
Yay.
Yeah.
God.
Just sounds awful.
Yeah. I don't like this. movie was well done, I guess. Like the animation,
really pretty good. Like I am genuinely impressed. But yeah, like
the sheep animation wasn't just the same 2 or 3 shots looped forever. It's like, no, it consistently had new shots of sheep doing things.
A lot of sheep. Yeah, not a feel-good movie.
No. I mean, it tries to be, but like, if you sit down and think about it for 5 seconds, it's not. Just thinking about like leaving your 2 daughters of ages 9 and 11 to watch a herd of sheep this big.
I mean, that in and of itself is like, whatever. You know, it's just like an unlucky circumstance that then they happen to get lost out in this blizzard. But...
like, within the first hour or 2 of them trying to get the sheep back, the girls, in a realistic sense, probably could have abandoned the sheep, gone home, and then would be forever shamed for losing the sheep. Because they would have presumably all died.
Well, not all, or they would have lost quite a few, and
stuff like that. They could have abandoned the sheep and kept themselves alive, but you got to remember that, in realistic senses, these kids were probably
scared out of their mind to lose any sheep.
At least in the first few hours, and then after that, like after a few hours and walking who knows what distance away, you're kind of just
lost.
You're lost and you're stuck with one option, and that is stay with the sheep.
Yeah.
And you don't have the choice of try to wander back because you're in the middle of a blizzard at night.
Yeah.
You just watch the sheep and I guess hope you don't die. Which, I mean, they didn't. So, God. Ugh.
Anyway, this was a interesting film. Thank you all for joining us for Animation Pilgrimage. Next time, we'll be covering Dougal and the Blue Cat.
Yeah, I think we'll look at Dougal and the Blue Cat. Another sort of catch-up film, but like not really. It's a 1970 film.
Yeah.
So,
join us back here for that.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.